All right, Tia-Clair Toomey, this feels a little surreal.
It's crazy, huh?
6-time CrossFit Games champion. We've known each other a long time. What are your recollections of the early days of CrossFit?
I often think about the time where I started to get into the competitive space in CrossFit, and it was just going to local competitions that you were actually hosting, the All-Stars Championships, or it was like the All-Stars Series, is that what it was called? And we would travel all over Queensland and go down the Gold Coast and go up to Townsville and do team competitions within our affiliate. And they were some wild weekends, which were really fun. And, you know, just like that camaraderie that I think everyone had. And now, like, you still see those same faces that are in the space, that have evolved in their careers. And, you know, it's really incredible how far CrossFit has really taken things, you know?
Do you think it's still that way, or has it changed a little bit too much and it's got too competitive in some aspects?
Selfishly, I would like to think that our sport has become a little bit more professional. And the reason I say that, and the reason I hope that it's kind of evolved into something like that, is because you can always still have a relaxed and, you know, really enjoyable a competition where people maybe don't necessarily have so much riding on it. But when the sport is becoming a little bit more professional and people are taking it as, you know, their career, and they're trying to really capitalize on that part of their life, it just provides so many more financial opportunities for everyone within the space, not just athletes, but sponsors, you know, commentators, you know, people that you need in order to make events run and, you know, operate. And it really opens a whole nother atmosphere, really, when it comes a bit more professional.
Early days of sport for you, a lot of athletic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it?
Not really. I think what I really miss is doing team sports like netball and touch football. We were teaching our guys from America touch football on the beach the other day. And it was actually quite comical because they weren't listening to what we were saying, but they eventually got the grasp of it, and we're actually, you know, playing some really good touch football and just being in that team dynamic where it's, you know, casual, it's just for fun. And, you know, just having that, like, you think about being athletic and you tense up and, you know, everything starts to get serious. But when you're just playing for fun and you're playing team sports, your body's are doing things that you can't even try to do when you're overly focused on that. And that's something that I really miss, you know. Playing tennis on the regular, or like I said, netball, you know, even for me, going and paddling and doing, you know, nippers, like surf life saving, like that to me is something that I do miss, because it's those types of moments where you're able to be a little bit more present and you realize, like, wow, I'm literally in the ocean right now, just with me and my own thoughts and, like, enjoying the beautiful waves. Like, that type of stuff, I do miss being, like, there versus, you know, where I am every day lifting weights in the gym. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today.
As a youngster growing up, and talk about shifting weight, was the Olympics ever in the picture at all?
Yeah, I remember, I think it was like when the Olympics happened here in Sydney in 2000. It was all over the magazines, and, you know, I think we even had projects on, like, the Australian mascots that they have and stuff like that. And it was really cool to see as a young girl just how iconic the Olympics were. And it specifically, like, Australia was just like really going after it because it was on home soil. That's when I realized, like, oh wow, like I want to do that. And I didn't know at the time what I wanted to do. I just wanted to go to the Olympics, you know, because it was such a big deal. And over time, when I was in school, I would go to athletics, do cross country, and so running predominantly became a main focus of mine. And I just thought how cool it would be to go and do, you know, the 400 meters or the 800 meters at the Olympics, and represent Australia. And so going to the Olympics was always a dream, but I never thought I could make that a reality because, you know, there's bills to be paid when you start to graduate. There's the life to be lived, and you know, in order to make it to the Olympics, you have to have a lot of dedication to the sport, and you have to put in a lot of work. So when I discovered CrossFit and then found weightlifting through CrossFit, and then got an opportunity to potentially qualify for the Rio Olympics, it was like a no-brainer for me. I literally dropped everything.
Not the bottle, but...
No.
Yeah. So you go to the Olympics and you compete there, and it's the world stage, and it's tough.
Yeah.
We've got some tough lifters there.
Oh, yeah.
We go there to the 2018 Commonwealth Games.
Mm-hmm.
Down.
Yeah.
And things changed a little for you. And
yeah.
I was there in the crowd, and I've not seen a more focused, determined, even angry lifter come from outside to get onto that stage. And there was no way known you were missing that lift.
So, I mean, I think I scared a lot of people out the back that night. I really think that definitely was a turning point for me as an athlete, you know, going and learning and evolving as an athlete through my Olympic experience. Like, there was so many takeaways that I took from being at the Olympics. I realized, you know, the way I had kind of seen myself as an athlete when I went to the Olympics was very different to the way I saw myself going into the Commonwealth Games. And it's incredibly, like, I never went to the Commonwealth Games to win, which is really strange because it's one of those things, like, every time you compete, you compete to win, you know, that's like the unwritten rule. And of course I wanted to win, but that was not the focus. The focus at the time, was, all right, I got to make weight. All right, what's next? Okay, after making weight, I need to fuel the body. And I couldn't have been any more present in the moment at that competition than when I like look back at that and I think, wow, you know, without even realizing what I was doing exactly what I needed to in order to execute it to absolute perfection. And by not worrying about the end result and just solely focusing on the job at hand, it literally put me across the line. And you know, I obviously, like, I had a bit of a tragedy within the family, you know, close to that competition, so that definitely added a little bit more fuel to the fire per se. And you know, I definitely used that to my advantage and tried to turn a negative into a positive. And then I was just so locked in as soon as I walked into that warm-up area. And I remember, you know, Shane and Miles, they were the two coaches that were in the back with me. And then we actually had another coach, Greg. The three of them were all doing like the numbers and, you know, trying to play the game and do what the coaches needed to do out the back. And I just remember all the time, like, Shane was just like, Tia, sit down, chill. I'm like, no, I have to stay up. And I was like just walking in circles, like going back and forward, just staying so engaged, like making sure I never switched off, because it's only 3 lifts for the snatch, 3 lifts for the clean and jerk. And you know, there's actually quite a lot of time within each lift that you could easily switch off. And I even had Miles being like, Tia, you got to stop, you know, like, you can't go out yet. And I was just like, just let me at it, you know, like, let me get out there. And they were trying to hold me back a little bit, but it was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. And it was pretty cool to do that right in front of a home crowd.
You go from the Olympics to the Com Games, then you go a different direction completely. Oops.
Yeah, that was a very different
Tell me
experience.
about the process of that from start to where you were getting the team to
Yeah.
the Olympics and sort of the fallout and like everyone was asking questions about
What happened?
quiet and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It was an incredible experience, I will admit. Definitely, even just thinking about it now, like there's a little bit of heartbreak, definitely, and a little bit of resentment and anger towards the situation. But I don't regret doing it. I know that if I never did it, I would always be wondering, like, what if I could have, made it to the Winter Olympics. And for me, when I very first got the email asking to be a part of the team, I kind of thought it was a catfish experience at the time. And it wasn't until, I got a little bit more information on it and I started to realize, like, oh no, I think that this is like a legit request. It was something that I was like, okay, yeah, this actually fits in really well with my CrossFit season. This is going to work really well with me developing my power within CrossFit. And, the only complication is really putting on weight, and I don't mind eating, so I can definitely put on, 10 kilos. So, Shane and I ended up going over to Korea the year before the Olympic season started. And once we started to have a grasp of what the sport was about and what really needed to be kind of implemented in order to even have a chance of qualifying for the Olympics, we were able to really understand what we were getting ourselves into. However, we just went to a training camp in Korea versus actually going out on the circuit. And so that was probably... Sometimes I wish we had gone 2 years before the Olympic circuit. So, we'd done Korea. I wish we had, done the season that we just did, which was technically the Olympic season. I wish the Olympic season was actually a year after. So essentially like right now, because throughout that season, we really learn a lot being on tour. We got to see how other teams did it, whereas in Korea it was just really us. And there would have been a few other changes that we would have probably made in order to get it across the line. But with what we had, I mean, Shane and I went all in. We invested $500,000 into a sport which only was really a 3-month experience, and because we really realized that you needed really good equipment in order to do well. You can't be just renting, a bobsled from another country that it's just absolute trash and it's been crashed on the track so many different times. So getting a brand new sled, the logistics of actually getting that, moved around the world is also another thing. Then you also have like the runners, which are the blades that go on the ice that attach to the sled itself. And there are just so many things that you need to actually apply in order to have the best vessel on the ice. And then the easy part was actually the performance of the athletes and actually, going to the gym. That was something that was very simple. But at the end of the day, if you really look down to the experience, we did what we set out to do, and that was to qualify Australia a spot. Unfortunately, due to politics, we just weren't the team that was selected. And, I think I'll always have that resentment and a little bit of, feeling robbed from that experience, because had we never gone and done that, Australia would never even send a sled to China for Australia. So I definitely have a bit of a bad taste when it comes to that, situation. But it also fired me up for a really good CrossFit season for the 2022 games. So, I do believe everything happens for a reason. And, I definitely don't have any regrets, but if I was to ever do it again, I'd do it so differently.
Lessons learned in life.
Lessons learned in life.
Let's talk about 22. It's great season for you.
Yeah.
I was there at Coliseum, the last event,
Yeah.
starting with a row that was pretty nasty because you had to go under that time cap.
However, we had to do that row basically at Torian as well, so I was like not even concerned about it.
And get into that final event. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I want like an honest answer.
Yeah.
Were you gaming the second part of that event?
No, I literally just took the foot off the throttle. So is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant as in like gaming it to like win it or
No, just
yeah.
to lap up every ounce
Yeah.
emotion that was just dripping from that Coliseum.
Yeah. So super strange. I'm like, so many people ask me if I'm retiring or not. And, I really can never answer that question because I feel like that kind of question, you kind of just know deep down inside once you finish competition that, hey, like this is it, like I'm kind of done after this. And I've never really had that experience. And it's really, really interesting because I get asked it every single year. And, I've said it so many times before, but I just keep feeling like I'm getting better. I go into the gym every single day and I'm like, wow, last year I could easily do 12 muscle ups in a workout unbroken. And this year I'm getting 14, like I'm just better in general. So like, why stop now? Like if I'm still pushing the barrier, like, why am I going to stop that? But for some reason, just like with the experience of the games, it felt very, very different. And every year I am leading by a long shot, but every year, Shane's always like, hey, we got to finish strong. Like, it doesn't matter how much you're winning by, like, every workout you want to go out there and do your best. And this workout, for some reason, I was like, Shane, I just want to go out there and enjoy it. And you know what? It really, I think, came down to just having my family for the very first time in front of me, because I've done the sport, I've gone to the games, 8 times now, and I've never been able to see my family in front of me competing. There was one time where we're outside and we're doing the total, the CrossFit total on the North Park field, and these amazing people kind of stepped aside to allow my family in front of me, and I was at the deadlift, and that's when I started to realize, like, oh, they're just there right in front of me. And I like deadlifted, I can't even remember what I deadlifted, but it doesn't matter how much weight was on that bar. I see my dad, and he had no shirt on. This is the first time he's ever been to the CrossFit Games, and he has no shirt on, a hat on, and he's just like yelling at me to go, and it just fired me up so much. And that memory is like imprinted in my brain every single time because it was just such a special moment, and I just got so fired up, And so like having that in for the very last workout, whether I took the floor in the future or not, I really wanted to savor that. And Shane was there, my sisters, my parents, my friends, and it was just like, I think they were also wearing my leader's jersey, so it was a cloud of just red and white, and it kind of did kill me a little bit because I'm like, oh, these girls are they're going for it, and I was like, you got to go too, but then I was like, nope, you stop, put the bar down and just like embrace it. And I was just like embracing the whole crowd, looking up at like the screen up ahead. And then I was actually looking at my family just like, go, what are you doing? And that was kind of funny because I was like, they're just looking at me like, why are you not pushing harder? But then to like get to my last 5 bar muscle ups, I could have done those bar muscle ups unbroken, but instead, I dropped, and my dad started counting my last 5 reps, and I just thought that was really, really cool. And yeah, don't worry, I've been spoken to. It won't happen again next year. We're just gonna go for it.
What were your emotions like in that last 3-4 minutes? You've seen your entire family for the first time, and they're in your lane, and they're just looking at you. We know what Shane's like with emotion.
Yeah.
He makes, like most of us in the broadcast area, bawl like babies. When we see him in the crowd, we don't really see too much emotion from you. What was your emotion like just seeing your entire family there, so very proud of what you've achieved in your career?
It's really interesting. This year was a little different because I almost couldn't compete at the games this year, and I just, like, my sisters finally got an opportunity to come to the games. Like, I remember I told my family, like my mum and dad particularly, like, you can't come to the games until Shane and I have won, because like we have a job to do, and we are all business, and like we're not there to like have fun. And I remember I was so adamant that they couldn't come, and so 2018 was their first time coming. And from that moment on, I was like asking my sisters, like, hey, when can you come over? When can you come over? And school would always just get in the way. And finally, my sister finally graduated. My other sister had time off work, and it was like, okay, this is the year that everyone comes. And we get to, 2-3 weeks out from the games, and I couldn't even get out of bed. And I'm not even joking. Like, my parents were so stressed out. Shane was so stressed out. And it was a good thing I had my parents there, because Shane could still focus on the other athletes that he trains for Proven. But I just remember, like, mum and dad were running crazy. Mum's getting all of her like natural, like turmeric and blueberries and like just all the foods, like bone broth, everything that she could think like that was natural, that was going to be good for the body to recover. And then my dad, he's just like massaging me and doing everything that they possibly can to get me back to where I need to be. And so even though they never put their own thoughts into it, Shane still stayed focused on the goal at hand, and never for one moment did I think that they all doubted me. But I just remember when I crossed the line and I was able to embrace them, it was like a huge sigh of relief from everyone. And I think that that's probably what was so emotional, because for them, they were just so stressed out about being a little helpless, but not also, like, they just didn't know what else they could do in order to help me get across the line. And to be able to, cross the line, win the event, win the whole like competition, and, just, I guess, have add another notch to the belt was just, it was actually more of a win for them than it was for me, probably. Because the whole time, regardless of, how I physically was feeling, as long as I got to the games physically walking, I knew I could win. And so, for them, I knew it was a big deal.
2017, what was the experience like for you going to the games? And what lessons will you tell yourself if you could go back to 2017 that you know now?
Yeah, I went into the weekend just in full attack mode, and it was really interesting because I was so hungry for not feeling that disappointment from the year before. And I'm not like, I can't even explain the disappointment that I felt. Like, it was like heartbroken. Like, the disappointment, it doesn't even begin to explain how just broken I really felt. Like, when you feel like a failure, there's really no coming back from that. Like, no one can say anything, do anything. It literally comes from you being able to dig yourself out of that hole. And so, like, the drive and the adrenaline that I really felt from that experience fueled me throughout the whole year of training. You know, I left 2016 games, you know, went to the Olympics, and then literally started training for 2017 games straight away. And leading into the 2017 games, you know, I was there to win. And that was kind of like the first step to turning that into reality. But throughout the weekend, as we got a little bit closer, I kind of felt like I didn't necessarily take the foot off the throttle, but I started becoming a little bit more in defense mode because I secured my leader's jersey, but then I started to really panic about stuffing up. And, you know, I talk about it a little bit where, you know, you tense up and you can't really reach your full potential because you're so tight and you're not relaxed and loose and free to actually explore how good you can really be. And that started happening throughout the weekend. And it was really about just making sure that I, you know, could flip that and be like, no, I'm going to keep attacking. Everything that I'm doing, I'm attacking. And, you know, I didn't switch off throughout the whole weekend, but that mood definitely changed, which I think, you know, resulted in it being a very tight race towards the end. But had it never been that tight at the end, I never would have gone back into training leading into 2018 wanting to just be so dominant. You know, winning, so for some people winning is enough, but now for me, I'm not just going to the CrossFit Games to win, I'm going to the CrossFit Games to dominate. Okay.
You've been the only one to win at Madison. You want to keep that record intact knowing that CrossFit Games is moving from Madison after 2023.
Yeah.
So is that going to be just the focus now, between now and early August next year? Everything you can do, keep that record intact and grab 7 titles, which would be just an amazing feat.
Absolutely. I think, you know, I don't do this because I just want all the titles, you know. I think getting 1 title or getting, you know, 8 titles or whatever it is, it's no different. It's actually more, you know, following through with what you're setting out to achieve. And for me, I'm really setting out to be setting records that just are unheard of. You always hear these stories about the greats. You know, you got Michael Jordan, and, you know, before him, there were incredible athletes, but Michael Jordan laid that foundation of, you know, no, like I'm not settling, you know, like I'm great, but I want to become unstoppable, you know, and I really admire that. You know, you've got Ali, just winning wasn't enough for them, and I really think that there's something there that shows or gives a lot of inspiration to people to never give up, no matter how good they are. And I think that that's with everything in life. It doesn't necessarily just need to be about sport. I think, you know, you could be the best parent that you ever could be, you know, and constantly trying to get better as an individual in whatever craft you're doing. I think that that's probably the most important thing in my eyes that I've been really kind of laying a foundation for. Because it's so easy to just get complacent and, you know, be okay to live that simple life. You know, I often think about it. I think, oh, wow, I was so happy back then, you know, how simple my life was. But I'm even more happier now because I'm challenging myself on a daily basis and constantly growing. And I just have learned so much more about myself. And I think that that is what is more important to me versus just another notch to my belt or just another win, because I haven't seen my medals since actually getting them on the podium. As soon as I get them on the podium, I see it, I show it off to my family, and then it goes in the cupboard. You know, for me, it's not about that gold medal. It's actually far more important, and it goes a lot deeper than that.
You've inspired a lot of people, not just in Australia and around the world. And I grabbed you straight after the CrossFit Games this year. I said to you, thank you for not just inspiring this nation.
Yeah.
And I got really emotional with because it was like heartfelt, and it was so true because so many people, so many young girls now are going, this is okay to do and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Society puts so much pressure on them.
Yeah, they do.
What do you think about that, like, with societal pressure now?
Oh, I think it's the worst it's ever been. And, you know, despite what I've done so far in my career, I still feel like, you know, I'm getting caught in, what's people going to say, you know? And it's a natural thing, but at the end of the day, I think we have to realize that we are our own people, you know, like what I do in my life shouldn't affect or have any, you know, I shouldn't be considering what other people want, you know, as long as you are sticking true to your morals and your values and you're making yourself happy, that's really all that really matters. And you can take people's opinions because technically they're entitled to their own opinions, and, you know, it's not on you to tell them how they should be thinking, but it's also not on them to tell you how you should be living your life. And, you know, no matter what you want to do in your life, who you want to be, how you want to be, it shouldn't be judged by outside influences. You know, I actually just did a mindset talk at a Proven seminar in Brisbane just last weekend, and I kind of got very passionate about it, where I think that it's so easy to fall into that trap of worrying so much about what other people think, but at the end of the day, you don't even know these people, you know, like who cares what other people think of what you do or how you should be, because you're not living their life, you know? And if you did, I would feel sad for you because you're not reaching your full potential. And, you know, there's always things that are put out into society where, you know, you should be this or you should do that. Like when I first graduated from school, I thought I should go to college or university and get a career, like an actual qualification. But I'm glad I didn't, you know? And my sister, she's going to university right now to study something that she really loves and is passionate about. And I'm so glad that she's doing it. It's very different to me, but it makes her happy. And I think that that's so important, because if you're not doing something that you don't enjoy, you're not going to be reaching your full potential. You're not going to be enjoying your life. And how others perceive you, you know, that's really their problem and not yours. And I think that that's something that I would like to still keep promoting, you know, as I have this platform and taking advantage of this, because, you know, when people finally let go and loosen up and embrace who they are, who they truly are, it's actually quite incredible what they're capable of doing.
It's funny how much influence negative people can have on your perception of life.
It's crazy.
Don't have the same.
We never even, it's like, you know, keyboard warriors, we never will meet these people, but we care so much about what they're saying. And it just is like, it's like, why?
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Let's talk about Down Under.
Yes.
Wollongong. Let's go back. I remember one of my first commentating experiences. What was your experience like as a youngster coming here for the first time on the competition floor?
Oh, I don't know if you want to ask that, Rookie. I actually hated it. I love Wollongong, but like, I just hated competing. I just felt like it wasn't what I was expecting. And I don't know if it's necessarily because I was comparing, you know, CrossFit as a community and everyone, you know, just being so supportive and stuff. CrossFit competing, it was so intimidating. And I just remember, you know, barely none of the girls spoke to each other. And I thought that was, not what I was expecting. And so I left the competition saying, I'll never do this again. And it's so funny because, 4 months later, I buy an affiliate and then I'm training and then I'm doing the CrossFit Open and I'm coming second at the CrossFit Games the year after. So it mustn't have been that bad because I definitely think, having that experience, it just allowed me to learn so much. It allowed me to realize that, hey, you don't go to competition to make friends. You go to competition to, compete and push yourself and really challenge yourself and see how good you can really be. But I definitely think that over the years, that kind of that mentality has definitely changed and evolved. And, I watch how competitors are in the back now and it's a lot more relaxed. So that's really actually nice to see because as someone, at the time I was only, 21, but now there's kids that are coming in and they're 17. So you can only imagine, how intimidating that might be. But I'm really glad that I came back and I think I came back and came third in 2015 and, solidified my spot to go to the CrossFit Games and, the rest is history. It would have been bad if I never went there. I don't know what I would be doing.
And you've built a really good proven community now in the States and that's obviously expanding worldwide and you've bought some of the proven crew. How's it been bringing them out here and showing them your backyard?
Honestly, it's been amazing. I was a little concerned because clearly I'm very biased and I think that Australia is just the best country in the world. I think that we have the best food, we have the best beaches, we have the best people, and I'm very vocal about that in America. And so I got a little nervous when we all boarded the plane and the reality of them actually finally experiencing what I've been bragging and boasting about, I started to think, wow, this is I've been talking this up so much. I'm a little concerned that they're not actually going to live up to this expectation that I've set. And, literally since they have arrived, it's been unbelievable. The weather has really turned up. We've been able to take them on some of the most incredible, day trips out at Tangalooma, which has been so great. They got to snorkel, we got to feed dolphins, we got to hold koalas, do all the Australian stuff. And then they've really loved going to all the cafes and actually seeing what I'm talking about with all the fresh, beautiful food. And one thing that I'm so proud about, and I just get so giddy every time I hear it, everyone is just raving about how fit we all are. They're like, there's no one in Australia that's overweight. And I'm like, yeah, we are sporty. We are so active, we look great. I'm actually so incredibly proud that, they've recognized that and I guess just seeing how incredible it is over here. I think they did realize how far away we are from, America and stuff. And they're like, wow. But they actually feel like it's refreshing. They actually are like, you know what? It's actually refreshing. I'm not on Instagram as much, but we've definitely kept them really busy. And so coming down here, they've been really looking forward to it. Getting to experience where our regionals was for so many years, that's been really cool. And they're just like, wow, you guys really do it well over here. You put on quite the show.
Went to the CrossFit Games this year and everyone, when we got over for the broadcast scene, just went, oh my goodness, Tory Pro. It was the best event of all time.
Yep.
How did you feel out there on the Tory Pro floor, not just going 6 wins from 6 events, but the crowd was just electric the entire.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like it. And for me as an athlete, it's exactly what you dream of. You always want the crowd to turn up, and they really did. It was such a well-structured event as well. As an athlete, you're very picky, you know, you want everything on time, and everything was so professional. You know, it's funny, I actually just got a comment, I can't remember who it was from, but they said, oh yeah, you know, they went to the Torium Pro, and then after experiencing the Torium Pro, and they'd never been to a CrossFit competition prior to that, they're like, oh wow, if the Torium Pro was this, we have to go to the CrossFit Games and do this. And I was like, awesome, like that's so amazing. And they're like, oh yeah, but we got to the games and we were like, oh wow, the Torium Pro was actually better than CrossFit Games.
That's what Taser Hoover said. He goes, they had fire.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not even joking. I was like, okay, wasn't expecting that. But they're like, you know, it was so incredible to go to the games and just see all like the best of the best in our sport. But they just really went to show how good the Torium Pro really was, and just how incredible we do put on a show. And I say we because, you know, I'm throwing us all and the Australians all in the mix there, but I think we really know how to party.
Oh, I think we know how to do everything right. I think John Island like run a great event. I think the do their part. I think like the back end sort of stuff with vendors and the spectators and the volunteers and like the broadcast, everything's just packaged up so neatly.
It is.
Well, I think a few people around the world are like jealous of what we put down.
Oh, absolutely. Brooke literally said, she's like, I just want to go and compete at the Torium Pro because that was way better than, you know, where I competed, because it was, the crowd was there and it was just so incredible.
And touring was rain and people didn't care.
Yeah, I don't even remember the rain.
There were people in the back seats of the stand with umbrellas up because the rain was coming.
Oh no. Oh, I hope it was worth it.
It went wild. Now, talk about Torium Pro for next year, 2023. Ranking system for open and quarterfinals. What's your pick? We're getting more than 3 spots. I know that because I know the depth of field.
Right.
My guess is about 6 or 7. You're
How
would be going, and how many spots you reckon the Oceania women in particular are going to get?
Yeah, well, I definitely think that we have a really strong field, particularly in the women. And I'm a little bit biased to that because as much as I am very friendly with the guys, I solely really just focus on the girls. And, you know, for us, we have such a strong appearance at the games. You know, we definitely have like myself, Cara, Ellie, and then we have like a handful. So we got like Jamie Green. We've also got Maddie Sturt, which I believe is competing this weekend at Down Under. You know, we have some incredible ladies that are also coming up and like a kind of fresh and new to the sport as well. And you know, I don't know, they used to say the Iceland girls, it was whatever was in their water, you know, but it's how we're brought up, you know, if I could be, you know, quite biased with that, but we're just brought up on hard work. And I think that, you know, it goes to show, particularly on the women's side, it's anyone's game. And I think that it's so great because as an athlete, wanting to prepare for the CrossFit Games to the best of my ability, I want to be going to the hardest region, and Australia is for sure one of the hardest regions around the world to compete at and qualify a spot to the CrossFit Games. But I mean, I think you might be right. There definitely is going to be a lot of seats for the Aussie athletes.
She was out at Grove.
Yeah, and she did amazing
job. Also got Karen Banziel coming through, and Marnie Sykes are back from out of teams into individual. So they potentially, based upon how well you girls go, would be 7, 8 spots.
We're going to be riding deep.
Which would be like absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah.
I know the boys are getting together.
Oh yeah.
Kind of thing, and going to be pushing each other in group. And Khan's one of those big advocates to getting
for sure
spots for the guys over at the games as well.
Yep.
Obviously 3. Not
Oh, I mean, I said this year how unfair it was. You know, Australia as a population, we can't compete against, you know, Europe or the US, but that's just the reality of it. And so now with the new changes, I think that it is actually important for them to be making changes like this. Again, I know that we're having more changes, but we're going to get it right soon, and I think that this is definitely in the right direction, because we're going to have the right people at the CrossFit Games. Like, we want to be competing against the absolute best in the world, and in order to do that, we need to be getting the right people on that floor.
The movie comes out, Tia-Clair Toomey, greatest CrossFit champion of all time. Who plays you in the movie?
Oof. I mean, I wouldn't mind acting. Ask my grandparents, I act. I don't know. This has come up a few times, actually. And I just feel like they have to probably get a little bit more musclier. But I kind of wouldn't mind them being Australian.
Okay.
Yeah. I just don't know who it would be. It's picky. I'm picky.
Who's that girl from the Hunger Games?
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
She is good. Cat? Is it a cat? Oh no, that's her stage name. Yeah, I don't know. Whoever it is, I'm sure they would do a good job. But yeah, I might have to put them through a few workouts.
Just a minute, see how they.
Yeah.
Is that about writing a book?
I have written a book. But I'm actually currently, no, the story is not finished, but I am currently actually in the process of actually writing another one. And it's a little different. It's not about my life, but it's more tools that people can kind of apply to their own life, where, through my experiences over the last few years, I've learned so many different things, and learned how important it is to have mental toughness, and applying that mindset to your everyday life, I think is really, really important. And so I'm kind of writing dabbling in I don't want to give away too much, okay, but we're compiling a list of tools that I think people could apply to their life that could really help them.
Young competitors coming through.
Yeah.
I've just been asked this 100 times. Now, I spoke to a few people over the last couple of days, and just talking about team sport.
Yeah.
Are you glad you did what you did early with athletics and with team sport, and then got into CrossFit? Are they going into CrossFit too early? Are they going to be broken by their mid-20s because they're having to train so hard to try catch you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's up for discussion, I think that with this new generation, we're definitely going to learn a lot. I would have loved to have found CrossFit a little bit earlier. And I will admit, selfishly, I'm just so proud to have young, ambitious athletes growing up wanting to be a CrossFit Games athlete versus going to the Olympics. Because, I've been to both, and the CrossFit Games are way better. And it also just provides way more opportunities. But for the kids that are growing up doing CrossFit and CrossFit alone, I definitely think that they're probably a little more prone to injury. As long as they're under a watchful eye, not everyone's going to have that coach that's going to be able to help guide them in the right direction. And we're already seeing, some of these athletes that are just so passionate, so motivated to get into the gym. They're kind of addicted, and I don't blame them, because I was too, but I also think that it can be a little detrimental to the longevity of their career when it came to being a CrossFit Games athlete. We're putting our bodies through so much, more than most other sports do, and if you don't have that correct guidance from a coach, you're really playing with fire when it comes to that. But I also think if you're just in the gym lifting weights and doing, your CrossFit, and not actually getting outside the gym, you know, learning skills through soccer, football, tennis, you know, swimming, running. Like if you're not learning those kinds of skills, I think it won't transfer over to the likes of the CrossFit Games as much as what you would think. It's so important to be so athletic in CrossFit, especially at the CrossFit Games. And, you know, if there are the younger generation are listening, I highly recommend that they take up, you know, maybe 2 other sports that helps with their agility, helps with their hand-eye coordination, you know, dabbles on a few other fitness components and fitness domains that CrossFit does dabble in, but you don't see it on a daily basis. Because, you know, I do put my success to the CrossFit Games to being so athletic when I was younger.
Is 7 enough?
No. I don't think that there's a number that's enough. After this year, I'm super intrigued to know how I feel next year. It was a different Games, and you know, I'm really intrigued to see where it goes, because I also think that there was, you know, it was a really different way of testing fitness this year. So it's kind of like I'm starting out new, and I'm trying to figure out what the game is again.
So Boz comes in this year, changed from Dave's programming, completely different. It's not stuff we don't know, we've just forgotten about.
Yeah.
Where do you think he's going to go next year?
Who knows? After this year, it could be anything. But I do think that it's really great that, you know, he is changing it up. But I also think it's really important to stay true to what the title holds, and that's to find the fittest. So as long as we are constantly challenging fitness, you know, I think that that is like a really important key component, because, you know, being one-sided to something might not necessarily uphold that standard, if you will.
Well, Tia-Clair Toomey, thank you.
Thank you.